Welcome back to the McKinney Podcast, where we celebrate what makes us unique by nature. How's it going, Fred?
It is smashing, James. Smashing.
Smashing the like and subscribe button, as the kids say.
That's right.
Do they still say that? I don't know. Gwen here at our office calls me out when I say things that are out of touch with the current lingo.
That's right. You got to have the Riz to connect.
Oh gosh, you have kids that are older than mine. My kids don't know anything about the Riz yet.
It's only because I do.
You're acting sus, Fred.
That's right. I am very sus. I do a lot of shooting for the local schools, and I'm in on the lingo, and I just smile and shake my head and try to figure out exactly what was told to me.
No, but one of the things that slaps really hard is having a great local resource for dangerous, scary things that might be happening. Do you know anybody who could help us out with that?
I don't know. Somebody, whoever it is, they got to have some power.
Well, power, maybe like POW power?
Power.
Like POW Ponder On Weather?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am very, very proud and happy to introduce to you our guest, Mr. Roy Ponder, POW Ponder himself. He's here with us. How's it going, Roy?
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Whew. You were on the original list of got to have him guests when we started this whole idea of the McKinney Podcast thing. So, man, you're basically a local celebrity now. You can't go anywhere around town without somebody knowing who Roy Ponder is.
I do get recognized a lot, yes.
Yeah.
When I'm out and about.
I hadn't paid close attention to the little intermediate lives that you do, like about a pop-up storm or whatever. And I've been a fan of yours since the very beginning, even before you started doing weather full time, which we'll get into it in a little bit on this conversation. But the last time I was on one of your lives, and it wasn't even like a big thing. It was just a regular, like Roy's doing some kind of update thing. There was 4,000 people watching live right then and there. Then I looked later, and you had like 150,000 plays on, I don't know, a 15 or 20-minute live thing. It was like, goodness, Ponder is really getting out there.
It is kind of crazy. It's developed a lot over time.
Man, it is. Man, I'm a little bit speechless. Like, I've been here since he was just a guy putting videos on YouTube, and he had 500 followers, 1,000 followers, whatever it was. Now, when I first got started with you, when you used to work at RiskWell back in the day, and it was just a hobby that you had started to monetize, and we're trying to figure out what in the world do I do with this. And
first and foremost, it basically all started as a hobby, right? It was way back in 2017, and it wasn't even my idea. My wife actually created the page for me. She got tired of me talking about the weather. All right, so hey, it's my birthday, and she's like, "Hey, I did this thing for you." It's like I got this page, and now we have to put a name to it. And I don't know. I'm like, let's ask my friends. What should we call it? And my friends named the page, and it started, right? It was just something that I had always grew up in Houston. I went through Hurricane Alicia in '83. The power was out for 3 weeks, and it was just in awe of Mother Nature's power, right? So, I would forecast for my running groups and stuff, and hey, it would rain at 2 o'clock, and it rained at 2 o'clock. Like, how'd you do that? I'm like, well, I kind of follow the weather a lot, So,
this is my thing, people.
So it was just one of those things that evolved over time. Obviously, I did a lot of networking for years. Was at a networking group. Started going as the weather guy instead of the. Started a YouTube channel. It just kind of snowballed, right? But it was just ultimately my passion was the weather, and I did it because I loved it, right? That was the whole goal going in, because I really truly loved the weather. I never thought I could actually technically do this for a living.
Yeah.
So, but when it came to the time where I was getting busy, right, and then decided to go to this full time, right, and kind of hit the ground running. And my wife's like, "Do you really think you could work?" I'm like, "Hey, so I could talk about the weather every single day, right? There's always weather. It's 24/7 weather."
Yeah,
that's how it evolved. And over time, yes, I was able to, quit, just do this full time, and it's been since essentially what March 2021, over 3 years now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, but before we get too deep into that, tell us about Roy Ponder. Tell us about, what makes you you, and why did you choose McKinney, and when was that?
Well, I grew up in Houston. I moved to Dallas in '96, and then kept on going a little bit further north, right? And then, I met my wife at work back she was designed all my ads for me. I was the sales guy, and then she was the designer of the ad department. We did an inside sales job, and so that's how it all evolved. And then we're kind of in the friend zone, and we started dating, and her mom lived in McKinney, so we ended up just picking McKinney because we wanted to be close to her mom,
Okay.
And I've been in McKinney since '04, like literally 20 years. All right.
How about that? But you were working for a company that was based in Houston.
Plano, right? You did the
Richardson.
Yeah.
Yeah, Richardson was the job connection back in the day. And then when we moved to McKinney, that's when I started kind of the insurance business.
Yeah.
I worked for a company within McKinney, right there in Stonebridge.
Yep.
And so I've had a lot of deep McKinney roots for 20 years. We've had 4 different houses in McKinney. So I grew up in Texas, and I think that's what makes it, because I know I've been, I follow this weather for years. I mean, I'm pretty obsessed with it really since I was 8 years old. So when something happens or a pattern, or I've seen a little bit of everything. So you can kind of read between the lines and figure out what's going to happen, not just because of what a model said or something.
Yeah. I first met Roy Ponder when we joined the McKinney Chamber back in August of 2016. And I remember the first several conversations you and I had, it was as friendly competitors in the insurance space, because we were both going to links. We were both, active in the chamber and doing that. You had already demonstrated an affinity for the weather, but you weren't doing it with POW Ponder On Weather didn't exist yet.
Right.
And I remember the day that you got a membership for the McKinney Chamber as Ponder on Weather.
Right.
I remember your very first ever links presentation as I'm a weatherman. And I was just like, wow, this is
I think
cool.
that's when the light bulb went off, because it's like, hey, I could be the unicorn, right? I could kind of go wherever I wanted. I'm the weather guy. No one's out networking because I'm the weather guy. I am a little unique, right? So I'm not a degreed meteorologist per se. I don't work for a news station. I'm pretty much independent, right? What they call independent weather enthusiast.
Yeah.
Right.
But how are you so much better than all of these degree holding professional meteorologists?
Like I said, I think it just stems down to, what do they say? If you do something 10,000 times, you're an expert at it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I've been kind of really doing this for 30 years. A lot of times I've sat on the sidelines and studied stuff and then call it, and then, well, I already knew that was going to happen. So when I started the page, it's like putting my foot in the door, in the space, right? Getting my feet wet. And say, hey, I'm putting myself out there, because obviously when you're a public figure, you put your forecast out there, and hey, I do it. That's what I truly think is going to happen. I'm not, obviously I'm wrong sometimes, but but yes, when you have a lot of skin in the game, right? And so I think it's just, that's what it is. I mean, we all kind of look at the same weather models, and we all have access to the same stuff, right? It's just I've been in Texas all my life, and I know the weather patterns, and I just know how weather works, and I seem to have a pretty good feel of what's going to happen.
Love it.
So you talk about you all look at the same information. Of course, the big channels, they've got, their Doppler 10,000, whatever, all these other things. Do you have access to those type things, or are there other? I know, like, there's a National Weather Service.
Pretty much.
NOAA
I don't have
things.
access to the National Weather Service chat and stuff like that meteorologists do, but everything else I pretty much do, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's technology, it's social media. You pretty much have your hands at your disposal, and that's the thing. What separates me, you are going to be limited if you work for a news organization, right? They have other networking things to play on TV. I can't tell you how many times it's a Sunday night and the Cowboys are on and I'm live, and it's kind of a skeleton crew at the news station because it's a Sunday night. Everybody wants to spend time with their families, right? The weather doesn't have a timetable, right? It happens 24/7. It's just because it's Labor Day weekend or whatever. It's the stuff's going to happen. Just So that's what makes me unique, because I go live the entire duration of a severe storm or a severe thunderstorm watch. It's not just cutting in the middle of, hey, there's a tornado warning. No, I'm live, before and during and after, right? Just during like the Prosper event, I was live during the entire duration and got down to the street level and really could depict on where that thing was going, right? I mean,
oh yeah, I tuned in. It was Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, there were several events, right?
Yes.
We've had a lot of nasty weather, but those were that 5 tornadoes, the one that went through Valley View that night, and that
in Salina too, right?
In Salina, and then the Weston, and ended up being 5 tornadoes technically, and yeah, the biggest one was technically Salina. That was a unique one. It was at 165 miles an hour, but it was only on the ground for not even a mile. Pretty amazing how powerful a storm got, and then dropped, and then lifted back up just like that. And the one in Valley View was the one I was on the ground 48 miles. Can you imagine 48 miles on the ground?
I was, because where we live in Craig Ranch, it was a little stormy, but it really wasn't much. And I just happened to, do my scroll through Facebook, and I was like, oh, Roy's live. And I'm like, well, let me check out what's going on. And, I tapped on that. And of course, it was like, remember the Jerry Lewis Labor Day telethon? That's what it was like, because, just the constant update, and, it was like, man. And so much so that, you're projecting the path, and I mean, it was like clockwork. It was like, coming to a town near you, this, storm. So much so that, how you're projecting it. I was like, man, we should probably call our son who lives over in Bonham and say, hey, you probably need to buckle down.
And like you mentioned, you saw so many people that were watching me, and I shared some of the comments later. It's like a big it's like a big community now. It's like, hey, I'm watching you live, but I'm also have like my entire friends list is on here watching you as well. It's like, hi friends, so it brings people together. It's a common place for safety and security, and that that, hey, unless I'm like out of town, right? I'm going to be talking about it, going live about it or something. I mean, if I'm not live, that means I'm out of town or something.
Well, I got to do this. I'm sorry. Let's see here. Let's see. If it's the weather, it's on. Ponder on weather. If Roy's not talking about it, you've got nothing to worry about. If you see Roy go live, you better stop and pay attention. Otherwise, your family might be in danger.
That's what they say, right? It's like, well, it must not be too serious because Roy's not live.
No, it's like the ABC guy's like, well, guys, there's National Weather Service dropped a severe thunderstorm warning, so this evening you should probably be careful. And then Roy's like, all right, Salina, 8:12 p.m. It's crossing Preston Road, and if you are in this zip code, then at this time, set your alarm for 6:12, and then look at the western sky.
You've seen it so many times, right? We're under a severe thunderstorm watch, but we have a strong cap in place and nothing happens, right? And I'm not live talking about it because it's like, okay, yes, we're under a severe thunderstorm watch, but that doesn't really mean anything. That just maybe is if the cap breaks. But it's stuff like that, yes, the cap is a known thing that can happen in North Texas.
Now, talk for a second about the cap, because anytime we use terminology on this podcast, I always want to pause for a second and explain for somebody who may not be familiar with it.
Well, literally, like it's like a protective lid that happens. It's like kind of a warmer air aloft. It's 4,000 or 5,000 feet up in the atmosphere. You basically have like a severe drought down there in the Big Bend area, right? And you get southwest winds. Southwest winds usually blow in high clouds that put like a little protective lid. I don't know if you've ever noticed, like on severe weather days, it's cloudy and it's muggy, it's cloudy, and that's essentially the cap, right? It's you got clearing, and you get see some sun, you get some poking holes in the cap. It's only when these cloud tops can penetrate that, what they call the boundary layer, 4,000 or 5,000 feet up that has the capability of rising to, become
60,000 feet.
Yeah, exactly.
Cloud tops.
And so, in some of those situations where it's like, okay, we have a 30% chance of breaking the cap. I mean, it is one of those things that, hey, there's an enhanced risk, but if the cap is strong enough, and if it's not, then yes, you could have a 60,000 foot cloud top in like 15 minutes, and then you could have literally tennis ball size hail.
Yeah, because the whole point of like hail getting bigger is the updrafts.
Right.
Take these tiny little hail pieces and kick them back up the cloud so they gather more moisture and
same concept.
Refreeze and fall and rise and fall. And every time they go up, they get bigger, right?
Yeah. The ceiling, obviously, you've got more room to work with. You get 60, 65,000 foot cloud tops. The bigger they're going to get, the faster they're going to fall. 100 miles an hour, And we've seen a lot of big hail, right? We saw one pretty much broke the state record, 7 inches.
7 inches,
Whew.
right?
It's crazy, right? But yeah, I mean, you just get a perfect combination of a serious updrafts, the higher ceilings. That one time when Anna hit 67,000 feet over Melissa, it was the last time my power went off and the transformer. I was freaking out. I mean, I was like, I've never seen that ever in North Texas, a cloud top get to that capability. I mean,
and a taller cloud means potential for more severe weather.
Yeah,
bigger hail,
like the biggest,
stronger winds.
Yeah, that cloud top that dropped that volleyball size hail in South Dakota back in 2010 was approaching 70,000 feet. That's the capability of that storm had.
Volleyball hail.
Yeah. Well, it's the world record. I mean, 8 inches, and so that cloud was up there.
Wow,
65, 70,000. It's just. It takes like the perfect combination to get to that level. So when I saw that, like basically in our backyard, a cloud top that happened, like, whoo, I was like, and then my power was out. I felt helpless, right? I was freaking out myself, and the lightning just like strobe lighting, But yeah, that was the time the transformer blew in Van Alstyne, obviously, and then luckily none of that wasn't terribly too bad, but yes, we've had some crazy events, and that one straight line wind event that had some 70, 80, 90 miles per hour that did just as, if not more damage than those tornadoes, because those only damage those areas that they hit. But straight line wind damage does a mass amount of damage.
Yeah.
Throughout the Metroplex, because you got 70 mile per hour winds doing a lot of fence damage, shingles off roofs. I mean, all kinds of damage, you know?
Debris getting thrown into cars and damaging God knows what.
Yep.
And so, yeah, they talk about the $1 billion disasters. There was 28 last year alone, 28 billion. I know the dollar is not the same as it used to be, but still 28 in the state of Texas. Why is insurance still going up, right? I mean, it's like, you can't, like, there's so many disasters, whether it's flood or hurricanes or straight line winds or hail or something. You got to imagine, you get a significant baseball size hail event, over a populated area. That's $1 billion disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, just like that in like 20 minutes.
Roy, you're starting to sound like an insurance man.
Right.
Like he knows something. Like he knows something here.
Well, the combination. A lot of people moving to Texas. I mean, it's the Mecca, right? I mean,
okay, so I have a question. Well, we always have questions, but I was in a high-rise office building off of 635 many years ago, and there was a storm coming through. And from my vantage point on the 13th floor, I mean, I could see this thing like just trucking, and I was like, man, there's a wake of destruction happening right there. Why is it that it seems, at least to me, that the storms are primarily like coming through the residential things? You never hear about like a storm tearing up downtown Dallas or...
Well, it happened in Houston, right? Remember that just happened a couple months ago. Downtown Houston had 100 mile per hour straight line winds.
Mm-hmm.
You get the perfect combination where they call them bow echoes. A straight line wind event starts to bow out, where they start to rapidly, move 60, 70 miles an hour, and those winds just it was like a mini derecho,
mm-hmm.
right? And they had confirmed 100 mile per hour straight line winds, blew out all kind of windows in downtown
mm-hmm.
Houston. That's a rarity that it hits such a populated area, but weather doesn't have. I mean, it can happen anywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
This is a random, not random, but a kind of an uneducated question. Is there something about really large, tall structures clustered together that penetrate further up into the atmosphere? Is there anything about the polarity of like the buildings themselves with as much electrical current? Is there any atmospheric stuff when you have
I wouldn't
such
say
a
that.
large...
I mean, sometimes you have some wind tunnels in between the buildings and stuff. But
like downtown Dallas, for instance, has dozens of buildings that are 1,000 feet tall or more. Like, is that...
Well, obviously they get tended to struck by lightning a lot more.
Yeah, but does that affect the atmosphere at all in a localized area? Does it steer weather patterns a little bit, kind of like a lake does?
Or the amount of concrete and just the heat that's radiating off of that? Does that create its own cap or no-fly zone?
Because, like, for instance, you always see, like, Lake Louisville, Grapevine Lake and whatnot, weather tends to, like, go around the lake more so than just straight across it.
Well, you tend to be cooler around the lakes, right? I mean, storms like warm. They like warmth, right? And that's why, hey, as long as these sea surface temperatures continue to remain at record levels, and we're always going to have higher dew points and bigger storms. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Okay.
Are storms getting more intense? I mean, I think the frequency of them are. There's always been extremes, and there always will be extremes, but. It really boils down to, because I mean, we're 70% water, right? And then you got, I mean, I can't, you know how warm these waters are, right? And they feed off that, and which basically equates to higher, more water vapor in the atmosphere, which equates to more, you get more flooding events, just more kind of like extreme events, not just rain, but can be droughts too. I mean, it's just like the heat wave coming for the Northeast. It's going to be cold somewhere, right? If there's an extreme high, there's an extreme low. So it's like, okay, well, yeah, you got record highs coming next week in the Northeast, but then you also have snow happening in Montana, right? There's going to be balances there. It's not going to be like warm everywhere, the extremes. That's what I mean. And so if it's just like, for example, if there's cold in Siberia in the winter, right? It's like, okay, that probably takes about 3 or 4 weeks to get here if the teleconnections work out. And it's like, okay, now we're cold. That means Siberia is technically warm.
Well, right? Yeah. Because, I mean, when some of that stuff was happening back in January, I'm looking at global temperatures and looking at elsewhere in the world. It was like, oh, it's colder in North Texas than it is in Siberia right now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where you get
bizarre.
The perfect displacement of the cold Arctic outbreak, right? You get just the perfect displacements. That's why they call them Siberian Expresses, because it basically opens the floodgates from Siberia and funnels it all the way down to Texas. It seems to be a beacon because it travels.
Well, the trough and the jet stream comes through here, right? When you look at geographically where the jet stream dips from the Pacific, off the Pacific coast, down into Mexico, and then goes up basically through the Ohio Valley up into the Atlantic seaboard. Like the jet stream's normal pattern dips right at Texas, doesn't it?
Yeah, a lot of times when you get something like that, that's what I meant, like reading what the models don't say, like just considering the sources where it's coming from, considering looking at the teleconnections and everything else. It's like, okay. And I always say, hey, that's got a one-way ticket to Mexico. Meaning it's not going to stop until it hits Mexico. I mean, it's taken out of everything because you can't stop it, right? And then a lot of models can't see cold, shallow air. They just can't, and that's why a lot of these events, it's like you call it. It's like I know what the models say, but that's not going to happen. I mean, that ice storm is going to reach all the way down into Austin. And then right now it's like everybody's saying it's going to be in Oklahoma City. No, it's not.
So I want to ask a little bit of a personal question here, because so many people dream of starting their own thing. They are working for a corporate thing or working for a company or whatever. And they have this idea of something that they could do to have some kind of entrepreneurial experience. When you and I first met, you were still doing, property and casualty insurance. You approached me at a chamber thing one time. Was like, hey, I see you're hiring. We should have a talk sometime. And then you and I hit it off like old friends, and you end up coming to work with RiskWell for about 1.5 years, give or take. And, I remember it like it was yesterday, because you and I were picking up lunch at the Arby's drive-thru
right
over there at Custer and Virginia. And you were, I just saw you going through some of those internal conflict dialogue things like, I'm feeling a little bit tired and stale in my career. You know, I've been doing insurance for 16, 17 years at that point. And I just saw you processing through this stuff. And all I said in that drive-through was, Roy, you don't owe me anything. Like, I want you to do what makes you happy. Because you were trying to figure out, do I do weather full time or do I, stay the current course? And the only thing I said was, bro, go do what you want. Like, and then like within a month, you had resigned your position, and you and Chris had already had a lot of conversations before that.
Following your passion. I know one thing you said is like, I know it's like, okay, I'm never gonna love insurance like you love insurance.
Yeah,
it's just like you never love the weather like I love the weather.
Yeah,
right. And so we're in our places where we need to be in life.
Yeah,
like I don't wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning thinking about, hey, what can I do to write this policy or to protect this client?
Yeah.
No, I wake up saying, hey, where's that storm going to be? Right. I mean, so we all have our things, but that's the thing. It's like that's the light bulb that said, hey, no, if I follow my passion, everything else will be okay.
Yeah. And you had the privilege of having a wife who, guys, if you haven't met Chris Ponder, holy crap. She is an amazing, amazing lady. So impressive in her own right. Not even the ingredients that she's been in your life, but just in her own right. Chris Ponder is a force to be reckoned with. And so you had the benefit of having a very successful wife who had her own career, that she was able to financially sustain your family for long enough that you were able to to find your way. It's
not like you can just, hey, I'm going to be a weather guy. And I had obviously full-time job. It took me 2.5 years, right? Most people don't realize this. 2.5 years before I made one dime on POW Ponder On Weather. Okay. Yeah. It was truly just, I did it because I love the weather. And so now obviously I happen to be monetized and happen to have income streams of doing this, and it's multiple income streams that I've had to diversify over time, because it is a business, you could say, right? I mean, I do it for a living, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a salary job. I don't work for a news station. They don't pay me a salary to go in every day and have a 9-to-5 job or anything. So I do have partnerships. I have sponsors. I've got partners. I've got, it comes from all different angles. But, I always look at it like, hey, I give away my best for free, because everything I do, I never ask for money. I never do any of that. It all comes from other sources, right? So that's the benefit of me. It's like, hey, I know, yes, you might have a sponsored ad every once in a while to look at, or I was able to start working with an agent on YouTube, so I've done some national brand deals together, and
very cool.
This is exciting, right? I mean, I'll actually enjoy that part of the business, is working with companies and helping them succeed as well, and it benefits them as much as it still benefits me, right? And so, yes, it has evolved over time. So I've started doing a lot of, some like oil and gas consulting, where I project longer range for oil and gas companies. That's a whole nother. So there's all different aspects of the business, and then I'm actually going to be starting another venture too. So I can't really say too much about it yet, but it is something that's been in the works for a while, and I'm actually pretty stoked about it. I think it's when I'm able to divulge what it is, people are like, oh, that does
keep in
make a lot
mind,
of sense.
if you want to talk about it, we can decide when this episode drops. So if you wanted to share something, we can always move the episode back until late July or August or whatever. When are you planning on making announcements? Because that might make it easier for us to.
Well, when I get back from vacation, I literally go on my family vacation in a week, right?
Okay.
We
so
leave,
it's not like months from now. It's more. Weeks from now.
It's weeks from now. We literally leave next Friday. I mean, it's basically already done. We're just the logistics of it still getting it together. But we'd have a lot more time if we weren't going out of town.
There you go.
But yes, we are going to go on vacation it's a while. It's like 17 days, and
Love it.
And then we come back. Yes, that's when I can actually kind of hit the ground running with that. But it's already there, basically in place.
So what you're saying is, Well, actually, by the time this airs,
This is
you're gonna
probably
you're gonna be
airing
back from vacation.
the third week of July. So are you able to talk about it if nobody hears this episode until the third week of July?
Yeah, I can do that.
It's your
Or
call,
do
man.
you
I don't
wanna
want to
do
force
that?
you to
Yeah,
talk about
I mean,
something.
that's
Hold on. Now, if you're going to do it, I got to give you some breaking news music. Do you want the breaking news? Do you want to wait until later?
So we're going to drop it like the third week in July?
Third Monday of July.
Okay.
Yeah.
at least the third, if not the fourth.
If you want the fourth, that's fine. You tell us when.
No, I can talk about it now.
All right. Breaking news.
All right, so breaking news. I've had a lot of inquiries over the years about storm shelters and lightning rods, and being the other guy. Everybody's like, hey, that's my weather guy, right? But what if you had a storm hero? What if you had the other side? It's like, imagine me going live predicting when something's going to happen, and you're like, hey, let's go in your safe zone. You go into your storm shelter. Your house is protected by your lightning rod. Your house is protected by a generator. You have a panic room, you have these things in place that, so yes, we have a company that's launching. It's called Storm Hero, My Storm Hero. And
how about that?
Love it.
yeah, so My Storm Hero.
There you go.
So you're going into the product and service industry now.
Oh yeah, well, the one thing about, I love the weather, right? And so, but I'm a people person, right? I've been out and about for a number of years. I was inside sales, outside sales for pretty much all my life, right? And so one thing I miss about that is the people interaction. It's great, social media. I spend 95% of my day, talking to a computer, talking on a phone, but not the one-on-ones. I do one networking meeting on Thursdays, but that's pretty much about it. This would allow me another outlet to go meet people face to face and be on the customer service side of it. Yeah, I mean, it's a great combination, because obviously Chris is going to be designing all the logos and the website and everything
Marketing,
else.
collateral, and all that stuff.
Yeah, and then of course I have my page too. So, and then we have a project manager. So I mean, there's definitely things in the works, and so I'm kind of excited to see where we go. I mean, there's so many things we can actually do with it, and how it evolves. But I got a pretty good base here locally. But yes, we're going to be mainly concentrating on North Texas.
Love it.
Okay, so you talked about the safe room, stuff like that. Are you talking about the traditional storm cellar that you dig a hole in the yard and put something in there?
Oh no. These would be something like, first, we're going to start off with the lightning rods and then the generators, but we're going to be, some of these will be enclosed in people's closets. You can actually enclose them in the closets. I like those are the best ones. I'm not too fond of the ones that you go outside and put underneath the ground. But I can actually show you a picture of an example of one. But this would be built inside their actual closet at their house, and it's secured by an F5 tornado. Can withstand over 250 mile per hour winds. Has a bulletproof door. It has. I mean, and of course you're already inside the house as well. And so one thing about those ones that are underground, a lot of times the door gets lifted off, and that's how bad things can happen. But this would be, inside someone's house.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the lightning rod thing is man, it's a hot topic. 'Cause
Absolutely.
There was a post that went around our neighborhood group. We live in Ridgecrest, over there at 380 and Ridge, and it was a post that showed the confirmed lightning strikes just in our neighborhood year to date, and it was like 11 of them. And there was a house just a few miles away here in McKinney that burned to the ground because of a lightning strike just within the last month or two, and it was a total loss. And that lightning rod, my son is like, is it going to lightning? Is our house going to burn down? And Allison, Allison, she's like, we need to have a lightning rod conversation. So it's very timely that you're making this announcement
right.
because I will be buying one of those the moment that it is available. And I'm guessing you have, contractors lined up to help with the installation.
We're right at this point. Yes, we do. I mean, we're at the very beginning stages of it. Yes, we do have all that kind of secured and lined up, and ready to go. I'm like I said, I'm pretty excited that it's kind of starting a new venture. I'm still doing the weather. Obviously, that's not going away.
Sure. That's your baby.
Oh yeah. But so yes, it'll have my days busier, obviously, and
but I
a
mean,
good problem to have.
You rely on your viewership, the people, because that's ultimately it's the viewership that pays the bills for you. So you're looking out for the viewership.
Well, my slogan from the very beginning was protecting you before and after the storm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And this is just a whole nother element to it. Right. I protect and predict the weather, and worst case scenario, if I can't stop a tornado coming to your house, it's going to happen, right? And so I can have a storm shelter. If I can deter some sort of lightning to move away from your property, whether keep you from burning to the ground, or even if it hits your house and doesn't burn, right? These lightning strikes can cause damage for months. I mean, you'd be like, "Oh, let me plug this in." I'm like, "Oh, that doesn't work." I mean, when did that go out? Oh yeah, that lightning storm.
Man.
Yes.
I'd love to keep doing this. We are just about out of time. We record, for those of you that don't know, we record in blocks, and we literally have back-to-back episodes today. So Fred has a question or two from the lightning round, and then I'm going to hit you with our final question that we always end with, and then we're going to send you on your way, Mr. Ponder.
All right. So who do you want to see? We've got a new concert venue coming into McKinney, right?
Yeah. The amphitheater. Mm-hmm.
So who should be the opening act, Journey or Taylor Swift?
Oh my gosh. I think for the masses, I would think Taylor Swift.
But selfishly, you're going to select Journey, right?
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And so if you had a choice of going and seeing a movie, like a blockbuster movie.
Twister.
There you go. I didn't have to get to it.
He already got it. There you go.
All right, James.
How do you feel about iconic movies being remade 20 years later with this whole Twisters thing?
It's never the same.
No.
Right? It is not the same. And then this one coming up, Twisters, won't be the same.
No.
But the remake on anything is never the same.
Yeah.
It's hardly ever the remake is better than the first one, right?
No, never. Never.
So last question, Mr. Ponder. Who would win in a fight between a giant polar bear and a great white shark? The fight occurs in a swimming pool of infinite size. There's no edges to this pool, and the swimming pool is 6 feet deep. Who wins, polar bear or shark?
Oh my gosh. I feel like this is a trick question.
It is definitely not a trick question. I promise you that. It is simply a fun little thing where we just get people's takes on that.
I'm going to go with polar bear.
Okay.
Ooh.
Why is that? Oh, yeah. I've got the day.
Okay.
I like to hear the why.
I'm not too fond of polar. I don't have any experience as the polar bear. I'm picking up the opposite of what I thought the answer would be.
Yeah.
Even though there's probably no right or wrong answer.
There is no right or wrong answer, but there is.
That's right.
Hold on. Yeah, that's one for Team Polar Bear. That is 5-2.
That's right.
Oh, 5-2.
In favor of Team Polar Bear. And that's it, man. We're all out of questions. If people want to find you, obviously you've got your Facebook page, POW Ponder On Weather. You've got the YouTube channel.
And I have my app too.
You've got the app.
Yeah, POW Ponder On Weather, Android, Apple. Download the POW Ponder On Weather app.
It's a brand, people.
Pretty easy to follow. Just Google me. I'm all on YouTube. I got 2 YouTube channels, Facebook, Instagram,
All the things.
How many subscribers do you have on your YouTube channel right now?
It's like 243,000.
243,000. I remember Roy when he showed up for Video Marketing World back in the day and just was playing around with the idea. And here you are, 250,000 subscribers.
Yeah, it really was cool. Yes, I
amazing.
went to one of those, right? Went to a networking meeting, came home, signed up for a YouTube channel, and here I am, almost 250,000 followers, right?
That's just amazing.
You really are a homegrown success
That's
story for
right.
McKinney, man. Thank you for your valuable time. We'll drop all the information in the show notes. And folks, check him out. He's very easy to find. He's Roy Ponder, and this is the McKinney Podcast. Signing off for another week. We'll catch you next Monday on the same time and place. Y'all take care.